allegiance. Everybody rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go for approval of agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve item 1C?
I'll make a motion.
I have a first. A first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I have a 5-0. We'll start with superintendent report, please.
Yep, just a really quick report. I want to let everybody know we have a robust summer school offerings going on this year with over 1,200 students participating in all of our offerings. And we have nutrition services over the summer. All of the information is on our website, but we are serving through July 28th, breakfast and lunch, and meals are available to all children through the ages of 18. So please check out our website for that information. And we had just a great time participating in the Independence Day Parade last Saturday, and it was a good time, and I want to thank the board for showing up to participate in yet another wonderful Oceanside community event.
Thank you. Nancy, anything?
No report tonight.
Thank you. Eleanor?
I don't have a report.
Thank you. Mike?
I gave mine to Ann.
I don't have one
Stacy?
either.
And I don't have one either. Just a real quick reminder that I would like to remind those that were speaking through the different comments as we go through our thing, that I want to remind the speakers in our community that this is a public meeting. Our community members and our children are watching, so please treat one another with respect and civility. We must set a positive example for our students to follow, and while it is perfectly acceptable to be critical of the board's decisions, please refrain from making comments that would be construed as derogatory or hate speech or racist or threatening violence when expressing your opinions. Thank you. We'll start with general consent items. The consent agenda is a one-vote item. Therefore, you are limited to 3 minutes to comment on the entire consent agenda. Thank you. Any comment? Any public speakers?
Yes. We'll have Brad Tobias on items Q and FFF.
What was that again, Ann? QM?
Items Q and then FFF, triple F.
Triple F, got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, board. Good evening, superintendent. How are you all doing? I just want to first off, congratulations on another successful school year, and just to want to give a shout out to all those who graduated from high school, those who got promoted and are going to high school, and just all the success from all the students. It's awesome. As a parent of students who go to OUSD schools, it's just awesome to see them grow and all that. And I'm thankful to all the teachers and staff that help guide them, direct them, and all that other stuff. None of us will be here without a teacher. You know what I mean? So congratulations on that. The first thing I want to talk about is on Q, item Q, which is the security service, patrol, and monitoring. Just diving into this, I noticed that one of the companies that you were planning on working with or bidding, like working that bid process for, was from Vista, I believe, and the other one was out of Oceanside. And I just had a quick question. I'm confident there's security services that can be contracted through Oceanside, and so that we can keep those dollars and keep those funds to help not only give back to Oceanside, because we all love Oceanside here, because Oceanside is awesome, and just to really maybe even get some employment for the citizens of Oceanside. And bottom line, that's really it on this topic. I just want to encourage you that we should start seeking Oceanside companies. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I stay up here for my other comments?
Yes,
Or
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the next one is under 3 triple F.
Triple X.
F. Okay. Yes. So it's under. This one is about the about sending teachers and staff to partner with Liberty University. I just want to give a shout out to Liberty University. I'm a graduate. I got my undergrad there, and I'm studying my graduate school there. It's a great university, and they produce a lot of great quality students. I like to think I'm one of them, but I might be wrong. Who knows? Well, that's up for judgment. But I just want to give you guys. I know I criticize you all and I offer criticisms, but I also just want to say that's a great school to go with, and thank you for that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I just want to offer that encouragement. We are all adults. We should have we should have good, wholesome conversations. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd Madison, items 3A, 3, triple C, and triple D.
Triple C and triple D. I don't know if we've gone that far in general consent for a while. So just more on the minutes. This time it's kind of interesting. I don't really have a dog in this hunt too much, but I have a little one, maybe like a Pekingese or a little Chihuahua or something like that. I got left off the list of speakers in the last minute, so I don't know what happened there, but that's okay. It's no big deal. I speak enough. So
Add you on.
that's okay. That wasn't the point of bringing it up, but CCC, so classified personnel. Since we now have the year-end numbers, I can tell you that your year-end voluntary turnover rate was 12.56%, with an additional 26 that retired. That's about 2/3 of the education industry average per the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Good job. On certificated, DDDD, or DDDDDD, here we see a voluntary turnover rate of 6.36% with 33 retirements. On top of that, according to the BLS 2022 education industry overall voluntary turnover rate was 19%. OEUSD's rate is 1/3 of that. Again, an awesome job, as I said many times before. So what's unknown is how many of these voluntary terminations are a result of dissatisfaction with pay and benefits, and how many left for other reasons. We've spoken about this before. But everything from unhappiness with administration to relocation of a spouse, expansion of a family, or need to take care of a sick relative. There's many reasons why people leave jobs. It's not necessarily always pay. As a matter of fact, the exit interviews are how that's done. The Workforce Institute's 2022 retention report tells us exit interviews are a powerful tool in developing employee retention strategies. It's been my experience in the past, too. If you don't know why people are leaving, how can you design a plan to keep them? Same report says, despite the narrative that pay is the major driver of the Great Resignation, less than 1 in 10 employees cite pay as the root cause for their departure. That's root, as in Minnesota, root, not root. We hear a lot about the need to raise pay to, quote, attract and retain. Maybe if we truly felt retention is a problem, we should ask people why they're leaving. Keep data on that, as a matter of fact. I can't imagine any other $300 million business that would not do that, particularly if they felt they had a real problem. So as I say, I haven't been a CEO before. I've got to tell you, if my HR manager told me we had a retention problem that required spending millions to fix and did not have that data to support him, he might become part of the involuntary termination stats for that year. Thank you very much.
Michael Richardson, items KK, TT, and triple A.
Good evening. Hi, Mike. Have you decided what we disagree about yet?
No, not yet.
No? There's 58 consent items on this agenda, more than I've ever seen. Buried deep in the consent items are millions of dollars of pork. So much pork that I can hear oink, 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 can't you? There are many items that seek to avoid the common sense requirement that the district get competitive bids for everything from foods to services. One of the more egregious items is KK, in which the superintendent wants approval to spend $144,245 on signs. She calls them signage. For 2 schools, $144,000 for signs for 2 schools. Are these Las Vegas type signs or what? How do they educate kids? What is the budget for science? I wish you would send this item back to the superintendent with a budget of $5,000 or $10,000, but I know you won't. Then there are a whole lot of policy changes that mostly just solidify our superintendent's control over everything. Then there are items like AAA, an item that seeks to spend $57,340 to conduct 3 days of get-togethers with a few district staff. And I quote, "To further develop equity-centered learning focused leaders who make students happy and proud and inspired." This money would probably pay for like a half of a teacher to actually teach. Item TT asks the board to approve the so-called safe school action plans. These plans, one from each district school, reports that all their feel-good equity-centric agenda has resulted in drastic increases in fights, weapons, drugs, harassment, and other crimes. This 413-page report compiled by committees from each school wasted hundreds of hours of teachers and staff time while kids continue to fail. What are the plans to fix this? Pretty much do what they've been doing. That you've heard what happens when you do more of what you've been doing. Dr. Levy, from a small-minded person like me, I think you wasted hundreds, if not thousands of hours of our money. Have you heard time is money?
That's it for general consent.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a first. Do I have a second? I have a second. Do I have a first and a second? All those in motion, say aye.
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 Thank you. So 5-0. We'll go to 4A, approval of new certified job description. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, President Alvarez. This item is for the approval of a new job position. It would be replacing a director position and adding additional responsibilities as part of a reorganization.
We have 3 public comments on this item. Brad Tobias, Michael Richardson, and Emily Wichman.
Good evening and hello again. On this, if it's just to replace a job with a bigger job description, why don't we just, instead of going through this process and just update the job description? Like, to me, it sounds like there's going to be a pay raise with it. There's going to be other people getting involved in it, and it's going to involve a pay raise, and it's just going to ensure that the district is spending a lot more money on something that really doesn't need to be there. In previous budget and different analysis on the fiscal responsibilities or the fiscal state of the district, it was showing that you all will be in the red next year and the year after. I want to urge you as a citizen that you all are stewards of our tax dollars. You all are stewards of our children, and just reckless spending. You know, Mike had some good points there. Some of this reckless spending doesn't need to happen. This fiscal responsibility it's a big deal. There's plenty of students' families that are low income, barely going paycheck to paycheck, and like the more money that you guys are spending, the more money that's going to support it. So I just encourage you, and I'm urging you in every sense of the word, and with the most seriousness that I can. Please revisit this. please revisit the spending, because it's a big deal, and I know families that are hurting financially. I know families that really could care less about an executive director of DEI and all that. They just want their kids to learn. They want their kids to go to graduate. They want their kids to be successful, because the kids not only are going to school, but they're also the future of Oceanside. They're also the future of Oceanside, and if we're in a district that's fiscally irresponsible and just spending money and creating jobs out of thin air, it's not a good sign, and it's not a good trajectory for our city. Thank you.
It's me again. This new certificated job is clearly just a promotion and most likely a generous pay raise for Jordy Sparks. Now, in the private sector, you get a promotion when you excel at your job. Let's see how Jordy has done. One of his new job functions, and presumably also on his present job, is to direct district efforts on attendance, chronic absenteeism, and truancy, and any ongoing changes in enrollment, attendance accounting, or engagement tracking, whatever that is. According to the district's own data, chronic absenteeism has exploded since Jordy has been in charge of that. The district budget assumes an annual loss of students. In my small mind, that failure would be grounds for dismissal. But in the world of education and government, that gets you a promotion and a bigger budget. This new job classification is just a way of paying out more pork for an unnecessary job showing poor performance. I guess the superintendent thinks I have a small mind, because I don't see the logic in this promotion for failure.
In May of 2018, the district describes the director of DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, is to lead the district's effort to ensure that all students receive support needed to graduate, to have access to a safe, inclusive, and supportive learning environment. Dr. Sparks will also audit and evaluate district practices and policies regarding equity and in student opportunities to access academic support, SEL support, and will address obstacles potentially impeding student success. Training and resources relevant to current and local issues regarding equity and inclusion will be provided for staff. Proven outreach programs will continue, et cetera, et cetera. In the last 5 years, did the Office of DEI meet the district's goals, which was 1, attain academic success? Well, I think we look at our stats that we've seen lately, and the district's failing our students. Number 2, experience self-confidence in the sense of belonging. Number 3, build a foundation of compassion and community that is respectful to individual differences. Let's look at the stats at the 2 high schools. 139 fights, A, threats, and 143 fights, B, assaults, and 114 drug incidences. Compared to the last 3 years, DEI is not working. That is failing. Restorative justice, a quote, proven program, is not working at El Camino, even with teacher training that takes up valuable classroom time. What are the proven programs at OHS and El Camino? Do you have enough CTE and basic education, instruction? Renew and Panorama paying 3 times more than we did last year on the contract. How has it met the district goals? And is it worth $375,750? Putting school safety plans in the general consent is not being transparent. It's saddened to think that the board doesn't think enough of the community and parents to pull that item so that you can really look at it. and you can ask relevant questions to validate a new administrative position. Again, taking the money away from the classroom, hindering students and their abilities to succeed in the future. We just learned that we won't be hiring a new directive, so that's good. But in the near future, with salaries and compensations and raises, again, in the near future, a cost of $1 million will be needed to support the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Any comments or questions for staff?
I think one of the questions that came up was regarding the pay increase.
Can't hear you.
One of the questions that came up was regarding a pay increase. I'd like some more information about that.
We have a published salary schedule for this position that's posted on the website. It's already been established and board approved. It would be that pay schedule.
Nancy, I'll answer your question. It's approximately $8,000.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I just have a real quick comment, though, before we go further. I'm looking forward to, I know that we're just starting a whole bunch of new things with the absenteeism issues that we've been having within the district, and focusing on that issue has been huge, and it's one of my things that we've been focusing on to try and get going. And so having this come under you, I'm looking forward to seeing the results, and so that we can just have that that accountability, and also to be able to track and see the things that are going on, so that we can have and see what's going on with our students and see what we need to do differently. So I appreciate you taking on more work. I'm sorry, that we shifted so much to you, but thank you for accepting and wanting to do this work, because it is important to our students. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the changes and what's going on. So I'm sorry. With that, we'll go with the motion.
I'll
So I
second.
have first and I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Aye.
you. Curriculum and instruction, adoption of the 2023-24 Local Control and Accountability Plan, final approval. Staff
Th-
presentation, please.
Yes, thank you, President Alvarez. The local accountability and local control and accountability plan is a 3-year plan that is updated annually based on our local measures and data analysis. 2 weeks ago, on June 13th, we presented the board with those findings and had a public hearing. Approval of this item will allow us to receive the state funding that we are entitled to support our programming for the 23-24 school year.
Any questions for staff? Or we have public comment?
Yes. Todd Madison.
All right, back to LCAP again. So I trust nothing has changed since the last meeting, meaning the LCAP still has very little in it that focuses on what parents actually want from their school district, a better education for their kids. The LCAP is supposed to be the plan for spending to improve education, and we need it. As we know, Oceanside is failing miserably. To recap, last year, 59% of our kids did not meet minimal standards for English, and a whopping 71% didn't meet standards for math. Those are Fs in any grading system. As I mentioned in the last meeting, page 41 of the LCAP tells us that we're just going to continue with the same plan. Quote, no changes have been made to the plan goals and desired outcomes or actions. In the LCAP presentation in the last meeting, slide 20 listed key expenditures to improve academic achievement. That priority has been number one for the parents and highly ranked for teachers, was the very lowest on the list, smaller class sizes. The highest priority for stakeholders, the lowest priority for the district, as it has been for years, and academic performance reflects that. Are we really going to say what we've been doing has worked so well, we're just going to continue doing the same thing, when it clearly isn't working? Albert Einstein again, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results is, can anyone tell me? Insanity, there we go. And this applies to our district and our board. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Why are we not looking at districts that do better and putting our money into those things? And why are we not doing something different? Could it be because our administration has better ideas on how to use our money, spending on themselves and promoting different positions and such, as we just saw, not on the education of our kids? I think that's the idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions for staff? Do I hear a motion to approve 5A?
I'll make a motion.
I have a first, I'll second. So a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. 5B, approval of the 2023-24 Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP Federal Addendum. Staff presentation, please.
Yes, good evening.
Sorry, Raquel, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear what the next agenda item is.
I'm sorry, it's 5B, approval of the 2023-24 Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP Federal Addendum.
Yes,
you.
thank you so
Sorry
much,
for the
Pres-
rudeness.
I'm sorry. So this federal addendum is also part of our LCOP process that allows us to access the entitlement funds from the federal government to support local students here in Oceanside. Approval of this item will allow us to access those funds that are available to support our students who are most in need.
Thank you. Public comment? None?
I'll make a motion to approve.
No staff
Second.
questions? Good. Okay, I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 6A, presentation of the adopted budget and the adoption of the 2023-24 budget. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. This evening, I'm bringing back the budget. I presented it 2 weeks ago. It remains the same, so I've abbreviated the presentation as it contains the same information. So here we have our multi-year projection. Our MYP for the next 3 years shows anticipated revenues and expenses. Revenues adjust based on the assumptions that are included in the budget. Expenses adjust based on how much the district expects to spend each year. Here we see an increase in unrestricted expenditures in 24-25 and 25-26. These are due to increases in the Consumer Price Index, considering for inflation and purchasing things such as books, supplies, and services. We also consider step and column, stirs and PERS, as well as health and welfare, as well as utilities. The net change in fund balance shows that we are deficit spending. We also attribute COVID funds no longer helping to offset the general fund costs, as well as the increases in expenditures. The ending fund balance becomes the beginning fund balance for the next fiscal year. Because we don't need any additional funds to meet the reserve, we are able to successfully meet our obligation for the next 3 years, resulting in another positive budget. The state requires districts the size of OUSD to maintain a reserve of at least 3%, but not more than 10%. The 3% reserve is calculated on the expenditures on the combined summary. This next shows the combined summary. So this is where we put our unrestricted funds as well as our restricted funds together. That's why you see the amounts change. For our revenue, it decreases from the 24-25 and 25-26 fiscal years because COVID funding is falling off. We budget both what we anticipate to receive as well as spend. This also includes the decrease in ADA and COLA for that year. Expenses in 24-25 and 25-26 due to Consumer Price Index, as I mentioned before. We have the net change. You can also see the deficit spending taking place in 25-26 because we are outspending our revenue. The beginning fund balance, or plus or minus the difference between the total revenues and the total expenditures, is what we have for our ending fund balance. And then we also have our adjusted ending fund balance. This is the difference between the ending fund balance minus the restricted amount and the non-spendables and other commitments. This amount does not include assignments. Next slide. Here we have our components of our ending fund balance. We look at what our estimated actuals were for 22-23. We will be going into auditing those in the fall. And then we have our proposed budget. As I mentioned before, we have our non-spendables. That's our stores, revolving cash, prepaid expenditures. We have our restricted funds. Those would be our titles, our grants, Medi-Cal lottery, any COVID funding. We have our assignments. That's the amount of money above the 3% between 4 and 10%. Here we have set aside money for employee compensation and declining enrollment mitigation. And then you have your committed funds. Those are your funds that go above 10%. We legally have to commit those, and then we'll be putting in a resolution for the next item as to how those will be spent. For that, we always have our post-retirement, GASB 43, and that should say 54. Facilities deferred maintenance, furniture, and equipment. We anticipate setting aside $2.6 million for that next year. And then we have our reserve listed at the bottom. Our actions to ensure fiscal solvency: closely monitor student enrollment and adjust staffing accordingly, reduce staff as funding timelines expire, for example, any positions that are funded out of titles, grants, or COVID, evaluate health and welfare costs, identify possible reductions in contracted services, and continue to incorporate updated revenue and expenditures as they become available for current and multi-year projections. So the proposed budget was based on revenue assumptions provided by the governor's May revised budget. Any change in revenue adopted by the state will be reflected in the district's first interim budget report in the fall. The budget is also aligned with the Local Control Accountability Plan, or the LCAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Todd Madison.
So quick. All right, so as I said last time, the budget this year is pretty impenetrable, really. But one thing we can guarantee, we won't be spending money on things parents and teachers want to improve education. OUSD's funding has rocketed in the last decade, up at a rate over 7% per year, almost 3 times faster than inflation. Yesterday, the governor announced a historic increase, 8.2% for the coming year, a number I don't think has ever happened before. Why doesn't that give us money to significantly lower class sizes? For every $2 million we put into it, we could reduce class size by 1 student. That seems pretty small given a budget of $250 million or $300 million or whatever we're looking at for the coming years. If we started that today, we'd be moving in the right direction. If we did that for the next few budget cycles, we'd make significant progress, but we're not doing that. I'm sure both parents and teachers would appreciate that. The academic impact is not clear, but with increasing disruptions in classrooms, it seems likely giving teachers less kids to juggle would allow them to do a better job of teaching, which is what both they and parents want. Why are we not doing that? What about higher pay for starting teachers? We could easily revise the salary schedule to increase starting teacher pay by thousands of dollars a year without increasing the net outlay for pay and benefits significantly. Why are we not doing that? What about providing classroom discretionary funds for teachers? The bonus raise money given to the administration in 1 year would provide every teacher with a significant amount of money to spend on classroom supplies so they don't have to take it out of their pocket. Parents would also appreciate not having to put their teachers through the process of begging for wet wipes and Post-it notes. Why are we not doing that? What if we allocated more money to improving programs for low-income kids, kids with special needs, English learners, gifted or talented kids? Who could use our help more? Why are we not doing that? What if we started using all those buses parked in the district office to actually bus kids to school? Imagine how that would benefit working parents to not have to deal with getting their kids to school and back every day. And given the district climate change focus, imagine thousands of cars not on the road every single day. A few years ago, this board cut off bus service to low-income Hispanic neighborhood whose local school had been closed, and just a few months ago we closed another school and told parents if they were unhappy that their kindergartners were going to have to walk 2 miles to get to the next school, they could lump it. We told them that multiple times. We're just going to say we want to help kids, to pay attention to parents and to improve education, but not actually do any of that. We don't want to help teachers, too, in these ways. What we're going to do is the same thing we've always done, which is clearly not working, and now add money to departments that have no relation to education or improving the job that teachers can do. Same old, over and over again, same thing, insanity. Thank you very much.
Do you have a motion for item 6A?
I'll make a motion.
Have a
Second.
first and have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0. 6B, approve a resolution. I am speaking, thank you. 6B, approve a resolution number 49, 2223, designating certain general funds as committed fund balances. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. As I mentioned earlier, when you have committed funds, we're required to pass a resolution as to how those will be spent. These will be included for deferred maintenance, facilities, furniture, equipment. The resolution does need to be amended to also include the post-retirement GASB 4354, as I mentioned in the presentation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any public comment? No public comment? I have a first and a second. Oh, sorry, sorry, I have to read this, I'm sorry. An amendment to Resolution 49 to include the post-retirement, so I do have a motion for an amendment to Resolution 49, include the post-retirement GASB 43 to 54, a second. I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So 5-0. 6C, approval resolution number 50, 2223, authorizing the use of Educational Protection Account, EPA, revenues for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you. Revenues from Prop 30 and 55 are dispersed annually into the Educational Protection Account, also known as the EPA. The Oceanside Unified School District Governing Board determines how the monies will be spent each year. Oceanside Unified is projected to receive $35.9 million for the 23-24 school year. Since the inception of the EPA, the district has utilized EPA monies to fund regular classroom teacher salaries. The district will again use the 23-24 EPA allocation to continue to pay for regular classroom teacher salaries. It is recommended the Board of Education adopt Resolution Number 50 authorizing the use of the EPA revenues for the 23-24 fiscal year for the purpose of paying for regular classroom teacher salaries.
Thank you. Any public comment? No? Do I have a motion for approval 6C?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. I have a 5-0. 6D, approval of cooperation agreement for the City of Oceanside and TTLC Management, Inc., related to Garrison property. Staff
Thank
presentation,
you.
please.
The Oceanside Unified School District formerly owned 11.2 acres of real property commonly known as the former Garrison Elementary School site. The district sold approximately 3 acres of the property to the City of Oceanside in accordance with the terms of the purchase and sale agreement. The district has agreed to sell the remainder of approximately 8.2 acres of the property to TTLC Management. The split of the property and sale to 2 different buyers, the city and the developer, requires cooperation between the parties who want to ensure efficient development of the adjacent city parcel with the developer parcel. This item approves the cooperation agreement and authorizes staff to move forward with its execution and to take other steps necessary to effectuate its intent. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the cooperation agreement and authorize staff to move forward with its execution.
Thank you.
Emily Wichman.
So this is about who you sold the Garrison property to. And I took some time to talk to residents and managers of those 3 apartment complexes close to Garrison School. There are several hundred pre-K high school kids in that area. They have no place to run, no place to kick balls, laugh, and yell. Some residents are angry and upset because they have to listen to children play. The only place they play are in the canyons. The kids pass their time playing in the little small canyons where it's not safe. There is glass, sharp metal, waste, animals, and humans with questionable cognitive abilities. I was told that the city did not want to buy it. Of course not. Only a developer can afford $16 million for this property. As a board member, did you think to consider the children who live in that area have no place to play? Did you think to consider the property for the community, a park, playing field for grassroots team that can't afford to play in El Corazon? Did you think to sell this land to the city for a price they could afford with the stipulation that it would be a park or playing field? Did you think of the children and the families you sworn to serve? Did you think about the homeowners who have paid taxes and the renters through their monthly rent for years? Our taxes is paid for this land dedicated to the children and the families of Oceanside. I know you did not. I am disgusted and saddened by the disrespect you show our community, especially the disrespect to the families from those of those three apartment complex.
Do I have a motion? Any questions for staff? Actually, first. Do you have a motion
I have a
for
m-
6D?
I'll move to approve item,
6D approval cooperation agreement?
yes.
So I have a first, do I have a second?
I'll second.
As a comment, I would like to say that I would I appreciate the comments from Ms. Witchman. I know she served on the board with many years of distinction. We wrestled with this decision amongst ourselves several years ago in terms of how to maximize the value of this property in terms of putting money back into the school district system. We don't operate parks. The city operates parks. Our negotiations with the city were not really negotiations, but we made an offer to them. They get first rights of refusal to all of our land, as do other governmental agencies, and they chose to not take us up on that except for a smaller portion for a sewer pump station. That was their choice. But that is what they deliver to the community as a primary purpose of Parks and Recreation, not the school district. We do ancillary on our schools by having them open to public use and civic use in the after-school hours, and I'm very supportive of that and will always defend that. But this is a sound fiscal move for the district. There's many of you who would be arguing with us if we gave this away or did something otherwise that we would be equally foolish in that expenditure. So I move approval of the cooperation agreement.
I'll second.
I already have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So I have a 5-0. 6E, approval of resolution number 51, 2223, authorizing of the borrowing of funds for fiscal year 2023-24 and the issuance and sale of one or more series of 2023-24 tax and revenue anticipation notes, therefore in an amount not to exceed $40 million, and participation in San Diego County and School District Tax and Revenue Anticipation Note Program, and requesting the Board of Supervisors of the county to issue and sell said notes. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. School districts are authorized to borrow money by the issuance of tax and revenue anticipation notes, also known as TRANS, to meet cash flow needs throughout the year. TRANS are short-term financing issued by California schools and community college districts to manage cash flow deficits. Districts receive revenue as property taxes are collected, which typically are collected in large installments in December and April. However, districts have constant monthly expenditures such as employee salaries. As a result, cash flow deficits may occur in these months leading up to the receipt of revenues, especially this year with taxes being due later in the year than typically. Such TRANS are prepaid from the general fund revenues earned in the fiscal year. So as we are receiving the TRANS, we are also always paying it back. The county requires that each of the districts considering participation submit their signed adopted TRANS resolution as part of the agenda materials for the county board action item. Because the county does not have a scheduled meeting in July, OUSD must submit a board-approved resolution for the June meeting. Although the district is currently requesting an amount not to exceed $40 million, the amount has not yet been determined, and it is possible we may not need it at all if all the taxes come in that are anticipated. The cost of the analysis is not to exceed $2,500, so we do this with the assistance of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Nope.
I have a question. Yes. Does borrowing this $40 million, is that a factor in our budget being balanced?
No, it's not. It's purely our cash flow, the money coming in and going out. It doesn't impact our budget overall. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
I have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 I have a 5-0. Six F, approval of the First Amendment to Agreement for Purchase and Sale of Garrison Property. Staff presentation?
Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. As part of the cooperation agreement discussed previously, the developer TTLC has been asked to pay a designated estimated amount as a fair share contribution to the city for the construction of a shared access road. The developer has agreed to make this payment, but requests that it be permitted to lower its second deposit to the district in proportion to this payment made to the city. The modification to the amount of the second deposit will not impact the total purchase price, just the timing of the deposit or payment of this money during the escrow period. The developer will still be required to pay the remainder of the purchase price, not already paid in deposits, before the close of escrow. This item approves the First Amendment to the agreement for purchase and sale and authorizes staff to move forward with its execution.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
If none, I'll move approval.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I have a 5-0. G, approve a professional services agreement for municipal advisory services. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. The Oceanside Unified School District is looking for lease financing options for potential improvement projects to the district's maintenance and operations facility. In order to begin generating financing options and reviewing potential loan offers, district staff would like to work with a licensed municipal advisor. Under the attached agreement, the district will pay the advisor a fee of 1/2 of 1% of any issuance plus up to $3,000 in reimbursable expenses if a loan closes. The advisor is paid on a contingent basis and only upon a successful closing.
Thank you. Have any questions for staff? All those in favor say aye.
We get
Oh, I need a
motion.
first and second, sorry.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I have a 5-0.
So,
We might need to redo
Thank
the
you.
vote. There's some people in the public that are voting for us, so can we redo the vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So I have 5-0.
So this is where I'm step up.
So we're going to 7, policy development.
Madam President Alvarez,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a motion that this board vote on items that have no public comment, since they're just revisions and we've all reviewed them. So that would be items 7A, B, C, E, F, H, I, J, L, M, N, and O. If we can vote on those and then have the public comments for the other items.
That'll be
so
fine.
moved.
So moved.
Second.
Any objection?
No objection.
All those in favor say aye.
Well,
Aye.
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 So do we want to vote on
We're
those
going
first
to-
or
Yeah,
hear
so we're going to
public?
go
Yeah,
ahead and
vote on
vote
that first.
on items. So as we're going to go with items 7A, B, C, E, F, H, I, J, L, M, N, and O. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. And we will now move to item 7D.
Bradley Tobias. Brad, you can also speak on item G and K while you're up there.
Let me grab my stuff.
Oh, okay.
So he's speaking on D.
Brad is speaking on items D, G, and K.
Okay, thank you.
So that means I get 9 minutes, right?
You'll have 3 for D, and then we'll
No,
start.
no, I don't need all 9. I was just
I'm
making
sorry, Brad. Can you hold on 1 second? Do you
Yes, ma'am.
want staff presentations?
Board, the majority of these updates are all revisions. The time on these have lapsed. Some of them are over 10 years old. So we took the recommendations from the California School Board Association, and this is our last big grouping where we're updating them. So staff has worked very hard to get us updated with current policies and laws. So this is the last bulk of that. Mr. Tobias.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first comment is on 7D, which is communication with the public. And I just want to start off this comment with the definition of communication. Communication is the exchange of thoughts, messages, or information as by speech, signals, writing, or behavior. So with that said, I want to encourage the two-way communication. In this right here, in this proposal, this this document, it talks a lot about stuff coming from you all to us, which is great. It's awesome. I know, like, as a parent, like I said, I get emails, phone calls, text messages all the time from the school. It's awesome as a parent. I appreciate it. So sometimes it's over communication, but hey, I'll take it. In this document, one of the things on here, if you look at, I don't know if you all have it in front of you. I assume you do. But it says under role of the board, it says the superintendent or designee shall provide the board and staff with communication protocols. I feel like it should say the president of the board, not the superintendent of the board. It makes me feel like you guys are working in cahoots and the board is not representing the individuals, but working for the superintendent. On that, further down on that first page, it says something about presentations at parent organization meetings, and also with representatives and local governments, community organizations, and businesses. I would like to recommend that you throw in here something about allowing parents, us, to give presentations much like your staff. I know Todd Madison has a ton of information, and a lot of us do. Todd Madison has been talking about this for as long as I've been coming to school board meetings, and that's over 2 years. I think it'd be great. It'd be a great tool that you could utilize that the board, the entire district staff as a whole, can learn from. We're not so much learn, but collaborate with us. Part of the teaching triangle of students, parents, and staff. So I think that would be huge and a really lift up and elevate this district to bigger heights. Going on, and that's really it for 7D. I just want to I feel like there's not a whole lot of there's talking, but there's not listening going on from us to you all. So I just feel like respectfully, you guys need to do better at listening to us and heeding what we say. Thank you. All right, 7G, which is the political processes. One of the things on here, again, got to print it out. It's under here. It's under CF 1100, communication with the public. Under it says district resources, including email or communication systems, shall not be used to disseminate campaign literature, and it goes on. How are you, as a district, gonna coming up here in 2024, gonna be able to prove that? How are you gonna be able to provide us with receipts, the public, the voting members, that are gonna be voting for 4 different school board positions? How are we going to be able to provide that? I would like to recommend and ask that you guys can develop a way to do that for us, so that we can ensure that we have fair and honest elections. Also, if you go on the last part of this page, it says, upon request, board members and district administrators may appear at any time before citizens groups to explain why the board called for an election on a bond measure or to answer questions. I want to request right now tonight a town hall where we can ask as many questions as we want, so that we can have our questions answered. Because in this forum, it never happens, even though you have policies that say that it can happen, that it should happen, and it's recommended to happen. I could be like, I could ask, hey, Mike Blessing, what's your favorite color? And you sit there like that. All right? We're doing this for a purpose. We're not here because we're on TV, or because we're trying to get likes on Facebook. We're here because we love our kids. We love this city, and we deserve to get our answers questioned. Dr. Begin, you are my trustee member. I would respectfully request that you hold a town hall. I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot of the military families there. All right. I think. Oh, and also it says here, public forums. Forums on political issues may be held at district facilities as long as the forums is made available to all sides on the issues on an equitable basis. We have awesome auditoriums at El Camino and Oceanside Highs. Let's have election debates. Let's have debates, especially come the 2024 election cycle. Let's have debates. And I know some moms and dads who want to run for the board. To ensure equitable fashion, let's have debates. What's the worst that's going to happen? You know what I mean? Thank you. All right, and last thing is high school graduation requirements, 7K. Okay, so looking through this, I mean, it's all the same that it was a couple months back when you all voted on this. Just with some semantic changes on the high school mathematics, changing mathematics to like Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. But I'm looking on this, and there is no requirement for health education. Instead, it says complete the state health requirement. To me, that's tragic. We just got done going through a pandemic. And I mean, kids are still having issues with that. People lost friendships. It was terrible. But even beyond COVID, I'm going to speak to you as someone who was a military recruiter. As a military recruiter, it wasn't here, but looking around the school, I put my recruiter hat on, and it's just the same. Looking at the schools, probably about 10% of your students are even eligible to serve, let alone have the want to serve. It's tragic, and that's because one, whether it's the aptitude test, like they can't pass the academics reading, or it's the fact that that there's no health education to teach them about how to be in shape. They're overweight. They probably can't do the physical fitness test or the initial strength test that we have in the Marine Corps. And really, like, education is the foundation of a society. Education is where everything comes from. And believe it or not, Oceanside Unified School District, the Board of Education, this little dot on the map has its thumb on national security, whether it's through educational security, economic security, whatever ever aspect of national security there is. You guys are playing a part. You guys play just as big as a role in national security as the President of the United States. You please take that serious. I strongly recommend that you somehow shift some of these credits to allow for health education, because I mean, we all got one body, So let's treat our body like the temple it is. Thank you.
Since we have no other comment on D, G, and K, can I go ahead and get a motion for items D, 7D, 7G, and 7K, which would be approval revisions for Board Policy 1100, communications with the public, approval revisions to Board Policy 1160, political processes, approval revisions to Board Policy 6146.1, high school graduation requirements.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
So I have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Just to address that, our PE program is pretty extensive. Every kid has to take physical education, and there's a huge nutrition and component in it that my son had to just do. So not happy about it, but he did it. So.
We have 4 speakers on item 7P. Emily Wichman, Victoria Mariani, Susan Custer, and Rose Higuera.
I'm sure several of us will be pulling out different facts of this. When I looked at it, I thought very interesting. When it says the adult shall not intrude on a student's physical or emotional boundaries, etc. To me, that's going to pit your staff against each other. That's going to be according to their own and their own values and morals. That's going to be very interesting to see what kind of lawsuits are going to start popping up, not only in our district but in others. Also, parents will be looking at this and to see exactly what's going on and who is saying what to their child. Part of this is the inappropriate conduct. Number 12, the inappropriate conduct is encouraging students to confide in their personal and family problems. What do you think Panorama is all about? What do you think those surveys are all about? What do you think EPIC is all about? Asking them personal questions. So this is going to be very, very interesting. And for one, I will be looking at it very, very closely because you approved your Panorama, you approved your DEI, you approved your social emotional learning. You're doing all of this. And so this is part of that. So it'll be interesting how staff, one way or the other, will look at this and how parents will be putting you on notice that they also will be looking at this. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and district leaders. I didn't write anything, so bear with me. I'm not as prepared as I normally am. But I was reading through this tonight on the same topic that Miss Emily was speaking about, and I noticed that I was just talking with Tiffany, our union president, and I understand the intent is to keep our children safe, and I am 100% for that. 100% for that. But some of the things that are outlined here that are delineated as inappropriate, it's going to depend on the age of the student. For example, it says no nicknames, don't call a child by a term of endearment. That will look very different at high school than it's going to look in a kindergarten class. And I don't know if teachers were even included on this, but if this is something that we're going to do, I feel like it merits revisiting and maybe like a discussion and maybe trainings, because it's very limiting. Teachers naturally say in kindergarten, honey, come to the carpet. Sweetie, you need a tissue. And it's to not call it term of endearment when it's all about relationships, especially in elementary with our youngest learners. I'm not saying it can't be done. It can be done, but I don't think that teachers are aware of this policy change. Also, there was another thing that delineated teachers may not buy gifts for individual students. Well, this year, one of my students made his first communion. I was invited. I happened to be out of town, but I did get the student a gift. I mean, he was very proud. I've known him since he was in kindergarten. He was in my kindergarten class. He was now in my 5th grade class. And yes, I got him a gift. It was appropriate, and it was because I have a relationship with this child. Some of these feel like maybe it merits some discussion and maybe some clarity or training. So that's all I wanted to speak about, and I just wanted to let you guys know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Common sense.
Good evening. At the meeting on June 13th, the district social worker stated that it is California law that the staff does not have to tell the parents if their child is changing their name and pronouns. And I'm also addressing the personal questions aspect of this item. This can be considered keeping a secret or a secret. A secret, by definition, is giving to keeping one's thoughts and activities unknown to others. I want to read one of the warning signs of grooming. Grooming is a process by which offenders gradually draw their victims into a relationship and maintain that relationship in secrecy. Please do not allow secrets between the staff and the children. Children are not always the best judge of what is good for them. And do not allow any staff to suggest anything to do with sex to the child. Do not allow them to suggest that the child may be gay or may be born in the wrong body. This is just setting the school district up for a potential lawsuit. Please address these topics in the document for maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions. They will prevent any misunderstanding. Thank you.
I
I would like to also address the board on this maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions, conduct that is inappropriate or creates appearance of impropriety. So I know that we have a Mrs. Targeta at El Camino High School who is a lesbian, and that is her choice, and that is fine. My personal children went to her class, and she had pride flags. She spoke of things that were very inappropriate, politics, and things of that nature. So this has been going on for a long time, and I also noticed that there was a video circulated when we asked you guys to take the pornographic books out of the schools. You actually took a clip of me speaking, and you guys called all the parents, you know, transphobic, haters, bigots, because we want our kids to be taught in school. She was in the video, the librarian was in the video, the superintendent and Dr. Sparks, you all went to praise the students at El Camino High School for coming and saying, don't ban this book of Anne Frank or whatever. So this is totally inappropriate. You guys are way crossing the line as educators, as people that we voted in. You know, you are trustees. The word trust is in there. You have the public's trust. And you guys are teetering on very, very dangerous territory. We have come, for the past 2 years, we're asking you, teach our children, bring the grades up. And it just seems like over and over, you guys are hell-bent on bringing inappropriate material, divisiveness, racial, all of this stuff that does not belong. Our kids have been through so much. You're introducing Palomar counseling. You're introducing surveys, data mining. All these things have nothing to do with education and learning. We're asking you, please do the right thing. I mean, this board just 5-0, 5-0. Why is it 5-0? You guys all have a mind of your own. You guys are the safekeepers, the watchmen on the wall for their students. Think for yourselves. You guys actually have the power to fire the superintendent, but you're so intimidated by her. If you are not going to think for yourselves and you guys are going to be a puppet, please resign and do us all a favor, because we need people that are actually going to stand up for our kids, do the right thing, and get back to educating our kids, not sexualizing, not indoctrinating them. So please, please take your responsibility very seriously. One day you will stand before God and you will give an account for every word, every deed, and everything you didn't do. If you didn't stand up for kids, you're going to give an account for that too. And let me tell you, hell is not a place that was created for you and I. It was created for Satan and his demons. And it's something that we choose willingly by turning our back on God and God's laws. And he takes it very seriously when we offend the children.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you very much.
I have a quick question. Todd, can you explain why this was brought to the board originally, please?
Yes, President Alvarez, this is a new policy. It's one to address the avoidance and unlawful and inappropriate actions between students and staff. Our employees are in positions of authority, and it's important that they understand those positions to protect our students. We also have training that's required each year, mandated reporting as well as sexual harassment. This is policy to help provide guidelines for our employees to understand their role and their responsibilities, as well as the district to provide specific policy to help protect students from the unfortunate occurrences that happen when adults cross those lines.
Okay. I think at this time, so we can, I'd like to make a motion to pull this item, to go ahead and see and investigate this, if that's possible.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm actually talking, and so they can't hear my direction, and if you're clapping and being loud, it makes it difficult for me to go further with this. So if we can just pull this item at this time, and then until we further investigate this and look at this, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd like to see more of a plan for how teachers are going to be trained on this, and I agree with the verbiage of how it's going to be different for elementary, middle school, and high school, because the relationships are a little bit different, with all the ages, and so I'd like to have that explored a little bit more as well.
Perfect.
Can I say something?
Yes,
You know,
ma'am.
I have never liked nicknames. Never, 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 never. In elementary or in high school, students consider it demeaning. You know, you say honey to a third grader, they'll tell you, please don't call me honey. All right? So, or what, excuse me, I've had the experience, I know. All right? So, I agree that teachers need training, and I agree very much that we need to tell them in terms of, or teach them or whatever, provide professional service in terms of how they treat their students. But when you give one student a present and you don't give the other student a present, you know, that creates a situation. Seriously, it's like you know, I don't think we should pull this. I really don't. You know, it may need a little bit more clarification, but I think, you know, just protect our employees and protect our children, we need to have something in place. There's been just too many kinds of inappropriate activities that have been going on and seem to be seemingly escalating. You know, I'm not in agreement with pulling it.
Okay, I'd like to, I appreciate your comments, Eleanor, but I'd still like to call for a vote. I'd like to make a motion to pull item P, adoption of new board policies 4119.24, 4219.24, 4319.24, maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions at this time. So I'll call for a motion. I'll make it first. Do I have a second?
Are we making a motion to pull it
To
and
pull it at
revise
this
it
point.
the next meeting, or just to pull
To
it
pull it at this
altogether?
time
At
until
this time?
further,
Okay.
till further.
Thank you. I second that motion.
So I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say no.
No.
No. And if we pull it, I have a feeling we'll never see it again. Seriously.
We'll revisit. We'll make sure to revisit it and just differently and see what we can come up with. So I have a 3-2 vote on that. Thank you. At this point in time, we are going to, where are we at? I'm so lost.
Public comments, right?
Yeah, we're gonna, at this time, we'll take a 10-minute recess before public comment. So we can start the clock. We'll call for a recess of 10 minutes. Thank you. We're back to public comment.
Somebody okayed that. Yeah, somebody must find out about that. He's number one, he knows he is.
Rudy, can you have a seat until we call you out? Oh, thank you.
Okay, 8-1. At this time, the Board of Education will receive comments about items and issues within the board's jurisdiction that do not appear on the agenda. Generally, each person may speak for up to 3 minutes. However, the total time for public input may be limited to 20 minutes per item or topic. While the total time per speaker for a given topic may be slightly reduced, in certain circumstances, all persons wishing to address the board will have a meaningful opportunity to do so during this meeting. 8-2, an individual may only turn in one off-agenda public comment card per board meeting. In addition, no one individual may give their time to anyone else for the purpose of extending their public comment time. 8-3, open meeting laws and fairness to other residents who may have an interest in your topic prohibit the board from taking action or engaging in extended discussion or your concerns. The board will now listen to public comments. We will give 2 minutes per public comment. So please call the first.
We have 15 speakers at 2 minutes each. First 3 speakers will be Rudy Cross, Brad Tobias, and Michael Richardson.
Okay, I
had to bring a cameraman because I'm documenting this for Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum.
You're losing time.
So I'm ready to start now. Yes, I'm the author of Origin of the Species, Homo sapien vaccinicus. I'm the foremost expert on COVID science in the world. I solved COVID. I solved myocarditis at the nano level with the mitochondria. The most important word on COVID is anaerobic. If you can't apply the word anaerobic to COVID, then you know nothing. I solved COVID. I could make a pill so that all the vaccinated could live longer. Because what they're doing is they're growing a parasite inside their body. COVID is an anaerobic virus. It lives without oxygen. And the consequence of the oxygen gain of function, yes, oxygen gain of function, it enabled the virus to grow into its parasite state. Here you have the spike protein, here you have the parasite. They chopped it up into 1 million pieces in an atomic blender, put it in the vaccine, and shot it in you, told you it was just dead fragments, but it has immortal stem cells, and one cell can replicate the entire organism. So, my first book, Origin of the Species, Homo sapien vaccinicus, human COVID virus parasite, chimera. The vaccinated have branched off the tree of human evolution. They have crossed the species barrier. Now, there's all this talk about all these transgender kids. They're not trans. The only people that are trans are the vaccinated, because they are transforming. They crossed the species barrier. They shot the virusite into their DNA when they opened up their DNA with the CRISPR gene technology. I've written over 500,000 words on this.
Thank you, sir.
My latest book is
Thank you.
The Vax Trans.
Sir, thank you.
Brad Tobias.
Thank you.
That's why you all think alike. Gen B.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Brad Tobias, please step up, please.
Brad, please come to the mic. Rudy, you are done.
All right, good evening. So I just want to say that the display on item 7P, where you called to reword it and all that other stuff, that's how it should be up here. That's the kind of that's the type of communication, that's the type of business that should be done at board meetings writ large. There is, none of this, automatic 5050 talk. All right, and actually it stirs a question. Do you all read the stuff that you're voting on? All the way, so you fully understand it? All right, that's good. I appreciate that. As a citizen, I appreciate that. But that's the type of debate that we expect to see. We're saying, like, we're not, people in the audience are saying like 5050. Well, that's because there's no debate. That's why you guys serve us, is to debate these things, to debate these policies, to debate the spending and all that other stuff. I'm marking this day in history, June 27th, 2023, as like the first time in at least the two plus years that I've been paying attention that I've actually seen that. That should be at every item thing, or at least a once a night thing. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. And in closing, just as a reminder, you guys serve us. All right, you guys work for us, and you guys work for our kids. So please keep that in thought in the back of your mind on your when you're voting. It's just not, hey, let's just vote, just so that we can get out of here. 5050, so we can go home or visit the restaurant afterwards. It's serious business. It's children business, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Richardson.
Well, I was going to talk about, where is your PR person? I mean, is that your job? Are you the PR person? It seems like somebody should be telling you that it's bad optics to vote 5-0 for everything and never debate anything and never question the superintendent. It seems like that's bad optics. But then Brad stole my thunder because he agrees with me. We're glad to see, and maybe that means we're getting somewhere. We're glad to see there was a little spark of debate there. Thank you, Raquel. Also, while I'm here, I want to ask Mike again, have you figured out what we disagree about? Yeah, well, I think we don't really disagree about policy or ideas. We may disagree about politics. But, you guys need to get back in the business of teaching kids.
Victoria Mariani, Adam Riojas, and Susan Custer.
Hi, I wanted to speak about Moving the Seas program. I know that it's too late, it's already been decided. I couldn't be here for the last meeting because I was getting ready for 5th grade promotion and it was exhausting. I wanted to be here. And I know the Seas program is already moving to PalmQuest, but I just wanted to say that Pablo Talk and Garrison, that Seas program has been at Garrison since I came to Garrison in 2008. And when talking with our Seas staff, they voiced their concerns to Dr. Montoya, and I'm paraphrasing here, I wasn't there, but what they told me is that she said that it's going to be fine, that we're all professionals. I feel like that's a callous, very superficial answer, and it does a lot of disrespect to the hard work that principals Dr. Badagan, Margie Oliver, the teachers, Mr. Nick, Mr. Sarienko, Mr. Clark, Miss Mueller, and our fabulous Miss Natalia, our psych over there at the Seas program. They've worked so hard. I learned so much from them. I learned from them that people are more important than things. When I first started having those Seas students in my room, they taught me so much, and so many other teachers too. And I just want to say, yes, we're all professional, but it took a lot of time and effort and blood and sweat and tears to acclimate that program to Garrison. And again, with the move to San Luis Rey, now Pablo Talk, it's not something that you just snap because we're all professionals. There's a learning curve. There is a big learning curve. And I wish the best to them at PalmQuest, and we're definitely going to miss them. But I felt that was a little callous and superficial of an answer, and I think that we should be a little bit more sensitive and have respect for the history of the people that did the work that came before them and all that work in that program. And I've seen firsthand the difference that we've made in students' lives. A few of mine are over there at Lincoln now, and some are thriving, some are still on their journey, but it's still beautiful to watch. There's beauty in the struggle, and I'm hoping for a great outcome from all of those students. And Pablo Talk is behind RC's program as they're moving to PalmQuest, and I'm sad about it, but I'm more sad about the way it was handled.
Thank you, Ms. Mariani.
At the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of God?" And Jesus called the little child unto him, set him in the midst of them, and said, "Verily I say unto you, except you be converted and become a little child, you shall not enter into the kingdom of God. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of God. And who shall receive one little child in my name, receiveth me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a milestone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe unto the world because of the offenses, for it must needs be that the offenses come, but woe to the man by whom the offenses come." I don't know if you've ever heard of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. I think most of you have. You know that this place was destroyed from sulfur from heaven? You know that the highest content of sulfur in the world is 50% pure anywhere on planet Earth. In this little area, in Israel, it is 98.8% content of purity. Nowhere else do you find it in the world. You know, we've done something. My job as a pastor in the city, a native in the city, is to take care of whoever I see needs help. Whoever I see needs help. We've now started and commenced a recall. We've sent letters to 5 of you. Only 2 of you have answered. Those of you that have put on costumes as an elephant and you're really a donkey, you will not be endorsed again. We are doing everything we can to start a movement. I love you guys, and it's for the children, and it's nothing personal to anybody.
Good evening again. As a small-minded person, per Dr. Vitelli, I would like to make it abundantly clear that I support all adults in their chosen lifestyle. However, after hearing the chant at the New York City Pride Parade, I decided to do some research. Before I get to the research, it's important for me to repeat the chant in case you missed it. We're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your children. And we're coming for your children. The statement, we're coming for your children, is what has parents concerned. Here's the headline in case you missed it. Why are parents concerned? Because the LGBTQ community just said, we're coming for your children. Why shouldn't parents believe them? And the board seems determined to help with the constant focus on pride, LGBT community, inappropriate books and lessons. The Progress Pride flag was raised in the schools this year. The color white on this flag represents people who are transitioning. Back to the research I decided to do. How are the parents of the children that are transitioning? Something I've never heard mentioned here. I'd like to read a few quotes from parents who lost their children to the trans movement. These are from a Substack called Parents with Inconvenient Truths About Trans. First quote, I'm writing to all the parents. I see my time's almost up, so I'm going to skip it and go to a mother. Living on a tightrope is terrifying and exhausting. I have thoughts about suicide. Her despair ebbs and flows. Will you only understand when this touches your family? And how would you feel if your child was baptized without your permission while they were at school? That's what that's, you know, all this trans stuff is just as bad.
Thank you.
Worse, only bad.
Joseph Cantor, Patty Kay, and Cleta Riojas.
We are currently in the midst of 30 days of celebrating Pride of a group of people who have chosen a contradicting lifestyle that over the past 15 years has become the new normal in our society. And before I move forward, I want to be clear that this is not meant to offend anyone. It is meant to show you the truth. I grew up in a home that was divided over this very thing. My mother abandoned her responsibility as a mother so that she could play with women and feed her own personal desires. I was neglected and abused emotionally, with my mom having relations with women. My question to you, board, is why? Why are you, the members of the board, forcing approval of something onto every single student in this district? Why, when kids come to school, is education not as much of a priority as the acceptance of LGBT within your schools? I mean, that is why they go to school, is it not? I know that's why I went to school. I mean, don't they go to get an education and not have other people's opinions shoved down their throats? Where is the love for all of your Christian students? Where is the love for those who decide to stand for truth and expose the lies that are being exposed and shoved at the innocent students who don't know any better? The answer is those who claim that love is love don't really mean what they say. They tell you that, but they have no desires to focus on loving anyone who doesn't agree with their beliefs, many of which are the members of this board sitting here before us tonight. I encourage you, board, to let the students be students and stop trying to get them to accept your leftist agenda You can try to say it's not an agenda, but your actions to get people to accept these ways of living within our schools prove otherwise. Let the kids be kids again. They don't need to be exposed to sexual content, including LGBT, until they are ready. Let the kids decide for themselves what they want to believe instead of forcing it on them, and let the parents do their jobs as parents in raising their children. Respect the parents' rights to raise their children how they see fit rather than how you see fit. They should be able to trust their children are in good hands when they drop them off at their schools, and right now that
Thank you,
doesn't appear
sir.
to be the case.
Thank you.
Patty Kay.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear? Latest test scores of last year from the National Assessment of Education show 13-year-old scores have fallen off the cliff. Math scores were the worst in more than 30 years. Reading scores the lowest in a half a century. This is a 3-alarm fire. When will America rush to put it out? When will they rush to the scene? The alarm was ringing in September 22 with similar results for 9-year-olds. It rang in October of 22 with scores similar for the 4th and 5th graders. Again in May, last May, when it rang when there was a 5-point drop in history scores. The reports come out and everyone is shocked. We discuss it for a few days and then move on. Certainly more money to DEI will fix it, but it doesn't. Since the Department of Division, Exclusion, and Indoctrination was established and funded in Oceanside, close to $1 million yearly is spent with salaries, benefits, testing contracts, teacher training, etc. But scores are still failing. Why does this continue to be funded? Do we know the overall objective? Do you is the question. The objective is to minimize educational achievement so that the masses will be dependent on the few in charge. Let's elevate those without merit, like Randy Weingarten, American Federation of Teachers. She kept the schools closed without evidence of need and did immeasurable damage to students for decades. Now she's elevated to Homeland Security. Parents,
thank you.
Step up, at
Thank
least
you,
get
Patty.
involved, and stop funding DEI.
Thank you.
Cleta.
Okay, good evening, and it seems my husband has already paved the way. Thank you. So recall is definitely commencing. We are recalling the board members who could not even be bothered to respond to our request to simply, number 1, support parental rights, 2, keep pornography out of the classroom, and 3, maintain fiscally responsible budgets. The ones who did respond with ambiguous responses will not be getting the Republican endorsement you so desperately need. So, Ms. Vitale? Ms. Vitale.
Dr. Vitale.
It has begun. It is the right of board members to ignore concerned citizens, but not wise. So we are now sadly forced to commence a recall effort to ensure that out of touch and out of step boards are held accountable. So, have a good night.
Patrick Higuera, Julie Stirk, and Graham Frazier.
Pride in the Bible is described by this: pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Better to fall of a humble spirit with the lowly than to divide with the spoil of the proud. And then it says, look at Jeremiah 49:16. It says, this is right to you, Vitali. Your fierceness has deceived you, the pride of your heart, O you who dwell in the clefts of the rock, who hold the heights of the hills. Though you make your nest as high as the eagle, I will bring you down from there, saith the Lord. It's coming. It's coming. So you gave this flag. So when you hung that gay and lesbian flag, you hung this flag, the MAPS flag, because that sits underneath your flag. So I wonder, no one spoke up about that. None of you spoke up about that. You definitely didn't speak up about this flag. None of you did. You're okay to hang that gay flag, which was this one. So all of you must be MAPS supporters, which are minor attractive person sexuality. That's what this is. That means you're groomers. That means every single one of you who did not stand to keep that flag from being hung supports this and not this. This one, where the 4th of July is coming right now, where 416,800 military men died in World War II. You don't support this. Eleanor, you don't support this. You and your, you say that you're so proud of your people that were in the military. No, 2,390 died at Pearl Harbor, okay? You gave LGBT 30 days to celebrate. You gave the Memorial Day 1 day. 1 day. What about 9/11? 3,000 people died in 9/11. You don't even care. So my question is, when the 4th of July comes, you can't even look at me in the eye, woman. You're a disgrace. When the 4th of July comes, yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you. When the 4th of July comes, are you going to hang the Navy, Marine, and the Army and the Air Force flag?
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Julie Sturk. I was here a couple of months ago, and I'm just going to address the same thing I did when I was here last time. And that is, I'm here on behalf of the straight, proud students and parents. And I'm just here going to ask you, because you guys are all going to take a break. And on this break, I want you to think about which one of you is going to be courageous enough to stand up for them. We're looking for somebody, just one person, to pave the way for these children. Which one of you is it going to be?
Graham.
By the way, it's Graham Fraser, even though it ends with an ER. That's going back to my Scottish roots, so I just wanted to get that straight. I'm here to speak about this. There was a pamphlet put in the children's or the graduates with their certificates at the graduation ceremony. It was signed by Mike Levin, excuse me. He's a local congressman, a Democrat. And I'm just wondering if the board was aware that this was also in the packet, and did they approve it? And if they approved it, why did they approve it? Because to me, it was totally inappropriate to, if trying to influence the kids all the way through school, but the very last minute, you took the opportunity to tell the graduates, hey, talk to Mike Levin. He's a wonderful communist. He's a communist, okay? And what I'm concerned about is what you people are doing. I mean, I thought there was 3 Republicans here. Then I learned that these 3 Republicans were always voting for less. I'm not even sure if you realize it. I'm not sure which one you are, whether you're a Maoist, a Leninist, or a Marxist, because you're all following the same pattern, early patterns of those regimes, which have all fallen, well, not all fallen, but have created tremendous havoc in the world. Millions have died, And that's the same path now that this board is starting to follow, and I'm very, very concerned about it. Thank you.
Allison Menu, Richard Newton, and Rose Higuera.
Good evening, Board. I'd like to address Maria Alshama, the district social worker for Oceanside Unified last school board meeting. Maria had mentioned AB 1266 has been in place for 10 years, and school staff cannot disclose the student's LGBTQ status to anyone, including parents, without student permission, end quote. As a mother of 2 in the district and parent advocate, I'm here to tell the families at home about FERPA. In fact, I will continue by stating the correct information, as a district and Maria seem to have real misinformation. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act is a federal law designed to safeguard the confidentiality of a student's education records. FERPA protects the right of the parents to access information about their child from the schools. Parents, not schools, have a fundamental right under the 14th Amendment to oversee the care, custody, and control of a child. Parents have the right to direct activities and make decisions regarding the child's care and control education, health, and religion. Parents' rights are among the basic civil rights of man. They are far more precious than property rights. California law does not sanction schools to keep information hidden from parents' education in the Education Code 51101. Federal law requires transparency under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Parents have the right to review the education records of their children. Even if the school characterizes a student's gender identity as an unofficial record or some other euphemism, the school is violating both the letter and the spirit of FERPA and exposes itself to litigation. In fact, a school that has a policy to deny or effectively prevent parents from accessing to their students' records can lose its federal funding. And so parents, you can protect against a school's hidden agenda by routinely requesting your students' school records. Thank you.
I recently saw a news article that the San Marcos School District has a financial literacy course, and it is the most popular elective in the district. Young people actually want to learn how to make their lives better, more prosperous, and financially stable, rather than having woke propaganda crammed down their throats or forced to be proud about the sex acts of others. Hopefully this course will be offered to Oceanside students starting next year. The concepts aren't difficult. Spend less than you make, then invest the savings wisely. To spend less than you make, one must have the personal discipline to defer immediate wants and make personal sacrifices. Those rules don't discriminate. They help anyone of any race, gender, or sexual persuasion. All are helped to lead better lives. I hope this course is implemented in the next school year. I'd like to talk about an old Disney movie. It's called Old Yeller. I know all of you have seen it. I saw it in my 3rd grade class, but I'll bet $1 to a dime that you don't show it to students today. It just isn't woke enough. After all, the starring family is all Caucasian, and there aren't any glamorized sexual deviances. There is a single mother, but she is not a stylish divorcee who betrayed her meaningless vows, but a devoted widow and mother. Instead, it is an incredible story that teaches that color doesn't matter. After all, the boy didn't want a yellow dog, that devotion to family is important, as is devotion to duty, and that sometimes stepping up to your duties is incredibly painful but necessary. There might be a few good lessons in there for our future responsible citizens. Maybe you can put that on the curriculum somewhere next year. So why have the teachers' unions, school boards, and the Democrat Party shifted so far leftward that they have passed laws to steal children from parents who don't adhere to the woke propaganda, that allow children too young to legally enter into contracts to begin to mutilate their bodies on what is most likely a childish whim, and to force students to believe that gender is a social construct and other such abominations? These laws were all passed in California by Democrat supermajorities in Sacramento. See for yourself. You can go to senate.ca.gov or assembly.ca.gov to see the supermajorities and how these terrible laws are passed on party lines by the Democrat majorities. If people knew what the Democrat Party stood for,
Thank
they
you,
wouldn't
sir.
vote Democrat.
Thank you.
I'll say it again. If people
Thank
knew what
you. Thank you so much for speaking at this time. Thank you.
So before the break, Eleanor, you said that you were here to protect the children. Really? Since when? How come we have not removed one single pornographic book from our libraries after 2 years of pleading and asking you to do that? Do not say you are here to protect the children, because you have undermined everything that parents and families have stood for. And Dr. Vitelli, I don't know why you are here working with children when you've used your power and your position to elevate one agenda and one sexuality. You were keynote speaker of Pride by the Beach. I don't know what you did this year, but it's not right. You're not a wife. You're not a mother. Why are you working with kids? This is highly, highly suspect. You're a part of the Association of Superintendents, AASA. You're trying to change policy to elevate one little group, maybe 2% of the population. What about the other 98% of kids that want to come to school and not have garbage shoved down their throat? We want to protect their innocence. They're made in God's image. They're beautiful. They don't need to be sexualized. They don't need to be indoctrinated. They don't need to be taught racism. So I don't know why you are here, and I don't know why the rest of you board are here, but you should be here to protect the kids and to fight for families. They are the foundation of a stable society. One man, one woman, married. God created marriage. It has been the institution for the last 2,000 years. Every civilization has marriage between one man and one woman, and that is why we're successful as a society. So, Eleanor, also I wanted to address the fact that you were seen at the Republican caucus. You're not a Republican, honey. You're a Democrat, or you're a leftist, or you're a communist, but you are not a Republican, so that tells me that you're a spy. And also, Mike Blessing, I think you claim to be a Republican. You're not either. So stop being hypocritical, please. And please, put the kids first or resign.
Thank you, Rose. The board will now pause this meeting to go into closed session and will reconvene in open session to give a report out of any action taken in closed session. Thank you. Call the meeting back to order at 7:10. Report at closed out session. A, public employee appointment, Executive Director, Government Code 54956.95. By the vote of 5-0, the board approved the appointment of Dr. Jordy Sparks to Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Student Supports. Thank you. Congratulations, Jordy, and thank you very much. And we will call the meeting adjourned at 7:10. Thank you.